Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite dark sorcerer here. And today I want to talk to you about the difference between a black book, a grimoire, and a journal within the magical communities, the different practices out there. Okay. I've been scrolling through various different online groups within Facebook that I'm in. And it seems to me that in a day that is supposed to be about enlightenment, about knowledge, no one really goes out and looks for this stuff. Those who actually know don't do any posts or videos teaching future generations what they know. So, for an example, I actually got underneath my Facebook profile and I was looking at this. The group's name is Hoodoo Booze, Voodoo Conjuring Tarot Mediums and Black Magic. Okay. First of all, if you're going to have a group called something like this, you might want to put it more professional. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay, second of all, define the group. Is it based off education or is it based off just children's play? Everyday propaganda. Okay. Now, the question that was put forth by this guy was, do you guys use a book of shadows? Someone in a baby witch group said usually people that practice Wicca use those. I assumed that a book of shadows was for anybody practicing any type of witchcraft. Am I wrong? If so, please enlighten me on where you keep your work, or what do you call it if you call it anything. Okay. First of all, a practitioner of the arts would not reveal to anyone where they keep their books of shadows, their grimoires. They would not reveal anything at all in this case. Okay. And this is why. Let's say you take this video for an example. Let's say, for an example, I'm discussing where one may keep a book of shadows, a grimoire, or a black book. Okay. This is just first thing. Now, somebody watching this, like say a modern day witch hunter, would be able to go to this place because we all know that the witch hunts are not over. They have never ended. Even though the Witchcraft Act disappeared in 1930, what was it, 37, 39 area? Okay. This could be used against you and your coven. Okay. Now, if somebody has gone through the actual practices, let's say, for an example, becoming initiated into a certain craft, like, say, voodoo or Santa Maria, Palo Mayombe, Satanism, okay, or even witchcraft in general. They've earned the right to look at that black book or that grimoire and to be able to jot down what's in it. Okay, a copy of a copy, so to speak. Okay. Now, this is for your eyes only. Okay. The main, how should I say this? The main black book, the black book. Okay. And this is where we're going to get into the three types. The main book that belongs to the coven in general. It does not matter if it is Wiccan, pagan, Voodoo, Paedomayambi, Satanism, Satanist. It does not matter. If it is a coven grimoire, it is referred to as a black book, and it's only one book. Okay, one book, and that is the main book for that coven. Okay, the grimoire, on the other hand, the grimoire is a copy that each individual member of that coven has. They have spent hours, days even, jotting down what's in that book. You got to remember that there are those who are out there that want to distort and destroy that ancient knowledge. This type of practice has been utilized throughout the last 1,000 years, the 2,000 years, if you think about it. Just about every grimoire has been watered down with the names of God. They have been watered down with Hebraic systems in some form, like, say, the Hermeatics, the Golden Dawn. The Golden Dawn are really one of the most basic, well, let's just call them the baby boomers, okay, of the world's religions. Out of all the world's religions, they are the baby boomers. And I refer to this because of that fact. They prefer to remain silent. They want to have their hands into just about every single thing that they can of the worldly orders. Okay? They want control over everything. There's said in Washington, D.C., to be a group such as this. Got their hands into political, legal, you name it. You go back into the 18th century, you go back into the 17th century. You'll have the same order, the same foundations throughout England and Europe. Okay? They've only been around for about 2, 3, maybe 400 years max. Okay? Before that, you had the Illuminati. Okay? That was an offshoot of the Vatican. They're the second youngest. Okay? So when you get down to it, there are those who really want to distort what you're learning. Okay? Think about it this way. In the Grand Grimoire, it is said that you have to have a rod of power and to utilize the names of God to force a demon into submission. Okay? I've never had to do that with a demon. I've always worked with them one on one in full view of all the demonic, out of all the spirits that I work with. I've never had to threaten them. I've worked with them, and if I have an issue with one of them, I always went to Lucifer's Raphael. He is the ancient scribe and pact maker. Okay? He holds every deal. So if one party is dropping the proverbial ball, he will set the record straight and make it known, especially to the higher ups within the underworld, the shadow realms. Okay? Now, a demonologist would have a section in their black book. Any coven member, any coven worldwide would have some form of demonology or spirits, a list of spirits, how they represent you, what they can do for you, okay, within their black book. And this could be jotted down from the black book into a grimoire. Okay? The grimoire is for each individual to utilize and to improve upon. Okay? It is a copy of a copy. Okay? Outside of that specific black book. Okay? And we've seen this not just in the Grimoire, the Grand Grimoire, but the Grand Grimoire Red Dragon, which has more information on a lot of different things. You get into more modern stuff like the Grimoire of Armadale or the Black Raven. You get into, say, for an example, the Magus or the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage. Okay? You get into any of these grimoires that modern day practitioners utilize, they're going to have some form of threats. They're going to have some form of JCI propaganda in them. Okay? This is why it's important to guard your book. I wouldn't even let my better half handle my book of shadows. And it's not that I don't trust her because I do trust her. It's the fact that this is a sacred tone. It is something that is utilized within the individual's personal practices. It is what the spirits share with you. It is all the practices that you experiment with. It is everything that you as the individual is trying to improve on, from numerology, spiritualism, rituals, ceremonies, astronomy, okay? Spells, rituals, hexes, you name it, it's in there, okay? This is stuff that you keep in your grimoire. But a lot of times, you're going to find all this stuff in a single black book. Now, what's the difference between these two books and a journal? A journal is a book where you, as the individual who is performing, who is experimenting with rituals, gets to go in to your ritual chamber with this journal. It is where you're able to do automatic writing, okay? Oneomancy type writing. This is where you get to jot down all your feelings, your thoughts, to jot down everything that you see within visions, perhaps physical, within, say, the candle flames or the water, perhaps the scrying mirror. This is things that you get to do. Okay. Afterwards, what did you experience? How did it make you feel? What was it about that ritual that succeeded? And what was it that needs to be altered? You see, any practitioner will tell you that not everything goes according to plan. I can tell you just the night before, I went into my altar room to talk with and to summon Uranamius, one of the 72 goetic demons of Solomon. And I can tell you point blank, it did not work out that way. Now, I don't know what it was that went wrong, but it was intercepted by three spirits: Belial, Asmodeus, and Aguileret. Now, I don't know why they chose to pick up that line and intercede in what I was trying to do, but it happened. You see, this type of stuff happens all the time within ritual. It happens more than most care to admit. But there are those that literally do go according to plan. Sometimes, if you're using lesser magic, utilizing herbalism or some form of concoction for, let's say, for an example, chiromancy practices, Not everything is going to work, but that's why you have your journal. So you can write it down on how you're approaching it. How did you approach this ritual? What did you use? What worked and what didn't? This way you can look at what works and what didn't work, and then look at then you can take that stuff that did not work and try to experiment. Figure out how can you improve upon what is working to complete your ritual for next time. You see, this is the experimentation of growth within ritual format. A journal is utilized for a lot of different things, not just what you see, but also your thoughts and your feelings. It is your personal record keeping of your rituals. The grimoire itself is simply a storage compartment for all your spells, all your rituals. You'll have a portion for herbalism, astronomy, numerology, spirits, even. Consider it Loa, Ugan, Jinn, or say, for example, angels or demons. Depending if you're into what is classified as white magic or black magic. Perhaps you're more into that whole modern day aspect of gray witchcraft. Magic is magic no matter what you look at it. And these books are a key figure. It is a pivotal, let's just call it a key role in any given practice. Okay? So to see somebody come in and say, "Hey guys, do you guys use a book of shadows?" You can sit there and go, "Yeah, I use one." Where do you keep it? Where do you where do you keep your work? Well, first of all, I wouldn't say that part. I would look at them and say, where my rituals take place. Because a lot of people will assume that you have one in the open. Another would consider you have a sacred place, like say, let's say a graveyard or a forest, a section in the forest, a clearing in the forest, or perhaps in a field. Some would use an abandoned church or, let's say, an abandoned farmhouse. Someplace that only you and your coven would know about. Okay? It does not have to be a walk-in closet or, say, for an example, an altar that's set up in your living room. You see, this type of stuff can be outdoors or indoors, but when you look at various different practices, you'd be surprised at where they keep their their ritual supplies, where they keep their sacred tomes. You know, for an example, the Grimoire of Asher Shadim, for an example. Okay, and I'm gonna go to page 36 through 39. Okay, the magician's dwelling, the formation of a dwelling ritual, and sacrificial grounds. Okay, just in this book alone. Trust me, it's a great book and it's a great grimoire to have, to own, and to get. You can get it off Amazon, you can get it off eBay, and possibly some other, uh, you know, book-related foundation. Okay, Abe Books perhaps, or azurgreen.net. You know, perhaps Luciferia Apotheca, or some other place. Okay, now what I just read to you is a place that you can sanctify. Hollow sacrificial ground is basically a term that is utilized for a place where life does not bloom above, below, or within that portioned selected section. Think of it as going into a mausoleum, for an example. If you have a mausoleum near you, you can go in, you can utilize various different supplies, like, say, let's go with crushed animal bone, human blood. Let's go with certain herbs and ashes, like, say, mix them together, utilize sigils, your personal sigil, and you can literally sanctify this one area, wall by wall by wall, and finally spilling everything on the ground at certain intervals, creating a sacred location separate from the rest of the world. This is considered a void or a nexus. Okay, this is not for rituals. Okay, this one ritual is all you need for this location. In this location, only one ritual, and that is the sanctified. Outside of that is a great place to read. It is a great place to study. You can do this in an old abandoned cabin. You can do this within a rundown abandoned church. You can do this out in the middle of the woods, like, say, in a cave. Okay? You can do it in a cemetery, a mausoleum. You can even do this within your own home if you have a basement or an attic. Okay? It doesn't, the location does not really matter. Okay? So this guy really thinks that this stuff really does matter, and it really doesn't. Now, the fact that he referred to someone in a baby witch group. Well, first of all, most of the groups on social media are baby boomers. These are the ones that think it's all about fun and games. And what's interesting to note about this is the fact that a lot of them don't share their knowledge. They think it's all about their life, about the drama, the latest thing that's going on in their life, be it begging for money, or, say, for an example, oh, my friend got into a car accident, or a friend of a friend got robbed. You know, there's some kind of predator running around. Okay, whatever. That's all these people talk about. These things don't matter. They're worldly bullshit. Okay, so when we get into this, number one, Wicca is not the only one that uses grimoires. They are not the only ones who uses black books and journals. Every religion or philosophical views worldwide uses them as well, not just paganism or Wicca. So whoever told this guy that those who practice Wicca use them lied to him. It is not just Wicca. It is all across the board. I mean, you look at the JCI. Everyone who practices Islam has their own Quran. Those who study Hebrewism or Judaism have their own Hebrew Bible or Jewish Bible. Okay, even the mainstream JCI has their own version. Okay, a lot of these ones utilize the King James or the New King James. Some even utilize the Gideon. Okay, whereas the Jehovah Witnesses uses the New World edition. Okay, um, the Catholics utilize the Roman Missal. Okay, so I mean there are different variations, and a lot of people don't consider this. Okay, but they are considered books upon their religious philosophical root workings. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would I be speaking on this? First of all, I could care less about the JCI. I really don't give two shits what they do. They don't bother me. and I don't bother them. They leave me alone, I leave them alone. Those in my area know me by reputation, they know me by name. They leave me alone. Every so often you get one that doesn't know me, and they face the consequences of their actions. But it's there. Okay? So he then goes on to say, I assumed that a book of shadows was for anybody practicing any type of witchcraft. That is truth. Anybody that practices any form of sorcery utilizes a black book, a grimoire, and a journal. But like I said, it comes down to a coven setting, which utilizes the black book, the main book of shadows, to the individual's copies, called a grimoire. As for the journals, those are just the individual's personal thoughts, their personal experiences, their personal experimentations. Okay. So then he goes on to say, if so, enlighten me on where you keep your work. Well, I've already covered that. So what do you call it? If you call it anything. Okay. Now I've gone down through the messages that are on here, and one of which is a book of shadows is a term coined by Wiccans. Other paths call it a grimoire or spell book. I keep a journal and keep it hidden. I am pretty bad at documenting my shit. 90% of intuitively done. I found that portion funny. But then you go down and you just got a bunch of people sitting there talking about what that must be where they got that misinformation from. It was coined by Wiccans. Well, I hate to break it to you, but Wicca is something that was only practiced for the last couple of hundred years. Paganism has been around for far longer. And a lot of these other traditions, such as the Hexa, which is Swedish for witchcraft, the Aji, the practitioner or magical worker out of Africa, the West Africa to be precise, or the Strega in Romanian and Italian, so witchcraft and sorcery. The name, you got to remember that the name Wicca or Wiki has various different derivatives that was utilized between Europe down into the Middle East, not just going all the way down into where the mage and sages are, the magi, the different names. You consider, let's say, for an example, Wicca or Wiki used to be known as the double V, okay? The double V, okay? It was not always Wicca or Wiki. The translations are what get people confused. My advice is to look at Christopher Penziak's books. Was it The Temple of... I want to say Outer Witchcraft, Temple of Inner Witchcraft, or the Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft. One of those three books. I want to say it's the Temple of Outer Witchcraft. if I remember correctly. It's been so long since I've actually read his books, and trust me, I own quite a few of them. I like his. He has a lot of information there, and he has a lot of knowledge that he has brought together throughout the world. And I support anybody who supports knowledge, education, especially within the magical and spiritual practices. Now, the way he put it was a name is just a name, but it comes down to the derivative of that variation. The medicine man is no different than the hexa, strega, a wizard, which is Welsh, by the way, the warlock, which is today utilized by Anglo-Saxon and European variations, not just Welsh, meaning oathbreaker or betrayer. But if you go into other sources such as Germanic, you go into Slavic, you go into Scandinavian or Gaelic traditions, they're equal to the witch. A lot of people today utilize the term witch because it's both considered to be both male and female. Well, thanks to Halloween, thank you, Christians, for this, because of the fact now you've got people dressing, the term witch is now associated with kids dressing up, which waters everything down even further and corrupts the knowledge of where it came from. Okay? So a lot of this stuff really does go back to the Dark Ages. It comes to the region in which it was spoken of. All right? And most importantly, you've got to look at the names of how it was pronounced, how it was spelled, and the meaning behind it. Witchcraft is just a more modern term. It's like looking at necromancy, for an example. Today it's known as necromancy, as in the Greek derivative, okay? Meaning divination through the dead or corpses, the lick, the leech, the cadaver, the spiritual conjuration or reanimation, okay? But yet, if you go into the Roman, it's nigromancy, meaning the art of black magic. Go back even further into Greek, and you have Nikia, which was closely resembled shamanism. That's just two variations, okay? These practices have certain spellings, certain meanings. And if you do not know what you're speaking on, you may get somebody that comes along and proves you wrong, but it comes down to how you handle it. All right? So let's go down even further. Let's see. Well, where did that go? Okay, there we go. All right, here we go. Let's see. BOS. That is known as the BOS is basically the abbreviation of Book of Shadows. Adrian literally speaks this as BOS is a witch term in ceremonial magic and other styles. It's usually called a grimoire or spell book. A collection of notes, journals, tried and true spells, whatever you want. But most of these posts on this one post literally was and is newbies. Although I have to admit some of the ideas behind them some of the questions are to be desired. Is there such thing as Muslims who practice hoodoo or Muslim witches? Yeah. What are we manifesting tonight for this harvest full moon? How many people have familiars and what are they? Wow. Yeah, there's not much knowledge in this one here. I mean, there's a few good posts, but many people don't delve into the histories or the actual practices to understand these three things. So when you get into any given system, don't be afraid to reach out into other systems or other traditions. You want to approach it with an open mind and you want to approach it with open arms. Okay? Like I said, the Black Book is the main book. The grimoire is the copy, and the journal is your personal experiences, thoughts, feelings, notes, whatever you want to call it. That's what's in the journal. Okay? But those are the three main books of any given path of sorcery, witchcraft, magical, or spiritual practice. All right? Have a good one.